Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Institute for Personal Development, where total consciousness is the new frontier. Kriya Yoga is the union of the individual with the divine. Join us as we explore the practices that initiate this process.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Voice of Yoga. Let's Talk Consciousness. I am your hostess, Lisa Winton, and with me is Kenny Toy, also known as Swami Jayananda, founder of Institute for Personal Development, located here in Hampton, New Hampshire. Good morning, Swami. Thank you for being here today. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine, and how about you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Well, I want to thank the listeners for tuning in today. Well, today on the Voice of Yoga, we will be talking about the changing of the season and the new beginnings for summer 2014. So Swami will lead us in a discussion about the aspects and transits to be utilized for our forward growth. But also later in our program, we will explain about our new Kriya Yoga Spiritual Advance. All right, Swami, well, can you get us started about the summer solstice?
Well, yeah, now the sun has gone into the zodiacal sign of Cancer, which is the beginning of the new season, summer. And it's also that phase in this cycle of the sun and the moon where now the days will start to get shorter. You know, so the solstice is actually the high point where it's the longest day. So the solar energy will start to diminish. And I think, you know, a big emphasis here at this time is, you know, what does the sun represent, you know, with regard to, you know, an archetype in our charts, you know, because the sun is our incentive to express the self or the spirit. And so that's one of the reasons why, you know, we really kind of picked this upcoming new moon, you know, for the start of this spiritual advance that, you know, we've been working on. And the whole thing that it is in Cancer, which is the zodiacal sign that is most associated with the concept of nutrition or nurturing, you know, because it is the principle of manifestation, and it's associated with the forces of being able to nurture that which we put into form. You know, the whole thing of mothering and being able to perpetuate something that, you know, we have actually manifested.
So because of this new moon, where should we begin to start our growth potential? You're saying we should start with nutrition, and are you talking just about food?
Well, to answer your question, I mean, food is a part, but it's not everything. You know, just like we had talked about in one of our earlier shows when we did talk about nutrition, that a big part of being able to nurture ourselves is to also recognize, you know, what source of sustenance do I have in a position of importance? You know, because food is your number 4 life-sustaining force. So it's important, but it's not as important as water, air, or the life force. You know, one of the emphases that we always put on our approach to yoga is the whole thing of being able to literally rebirth your body in this life force so that now becomes your primary source of sustenance, you know, your go-to for how you will validate yourself, you know, that your body will actually use what it needs to produce a feeling internally that it's happy. And so the new moon is an opportunity because it's a new beginning. And, of course, the sun and the moon in this particular configuration is opposing Pluto, which is the principle of transformation. Because like what we say, anything can change your life. Change is inevitable. But there's really only one thing that can transform our lives. That not all change is transformation. And in fact, under the heading of change, even in the scientific community, there's a difference between mechanical changes and chemical changes. And so the concept of the human becoming divine isn't a mechanical change. It becomes a chemical change. And in order for the human being to actually transform, we literally have to become something different. And so, coming back to the concept of nutrition and working with our physical bodies on all of these different levels. That's why, Kriya Yoga is a path of action, it's a path of knowledge, and it's a path of devotion, because it has very specific goals and objectives to help an individual transform. But in order to do this successfully, you have to understand the physics of the whole thing. Because the shape, the composition, the condition of your physical body, how the segments of the body line up, the range of motion we have at the articulations, are all important variables that will determine, how we think, how we feel, and how we perform. And if you understand the physics of spirituality, then you understand the relativity of everything. Because if there is a breakdown in any one of these areas, it will literally affect the changes that we're trying to create. So in order for us to really embark and take advantage of this new moon, a good thing to I want to say, put in place would be, a plan. Because that's what they tell you in anything. In business, if you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail. Well, the same is true with life.
So I want to make a plan. So what would I do? I know I have to nurture myself, but I also need to work on my mental body and my values and things like that. So where should I begin?
Well, this is where, immersing yourself in, this upcoming program that we're starting called the Spiritual Advance, I think would be really helpful. Because under the heading of this program that we have designed, you immerse yourself in a Kriya Yoga practice. You turn yourself over to it, and, you undertake, the responsibility of learning the science of yoga. So you do Theory 1. You start with your asana program, because our asana program is very different from what most other people are doing as far as postures. And so our approach to asana is that it is a system of exercises that one is working with the geometry of the body. So postures have procedure and intention. But the intention of the posture is to lengthen and strengthen muscles and move bones into a position of internal support. Because when bones are supporting us internally, the energy is moving through the body the way it's supposed to. But what makes an asana class a yoga class is the whole thing of the internal mental work, the part of the practice of training the mind to look for what you really do need and then conditioning the body to receive this invisible, intangible source of sustenance as a symbol for validation. Now, the other thing is that the physical exercises that we do, say, for example, like we link salutation to the moon with salutation to the sun. And the reason behind that is that see, when a bee comes back to a hive, it does this kind of dance. And what it's doing is it's telling all the other bees where it went to get the pollen. So salutation to the moon are 12 movements that tell this human mind-body complex where to go to find this tree of life, this invisible, intangible source of sustenance. And just like C.S. Lewis had said, humanity is designed for peace, love, happiness, and goodness. But a big part of this design is God himself. See, it's this source of sustenance that makes all of these qualities possible. And so salutation to the sun now are 12 movements that enable us to demonstrate these qualities. So it's literally a way of embodying the life force. And like we had said, becoming divine by nature. And then, also, taking advantage of, mantra and meditation on Sunday nights, pranayama classes, or even immersing yourself in our Theory 2 program. And so we've made all of this available with subscriptions. You can either, come to the ashram in Hampton, or you can take these online, which would be available to anybody at this time. And then everything is going to culminate into a retreat at the Cashew Hill Jungle Lodge in Costa Rica for the week of February 1st to the 28th in 2015. And so, the reason we call it a spiritual advance is because it's something that you start now. Just like if somebody took payment on a check that was due to them in a future date, like you can actually start this spiritual advance, right now. And then everything will culminate with the 1-week retreat where you immerse yourself in, the complete plan.
That sounds awesome. I think I'm going to go. My question to you is, the spiritual advance, if I do the subscription for the $85, now that should include all of the classes that you have to offer, either at your physical location or online. I think that's what I'm understanding. But what if I wanted to get some private instruction, maybe go over natal charts or things like that? How is that going to work out?
Yeah, that could be all done by appointment. That would be paid extra. Our charges, I think, are very reasonable. We charge $40 an hour. If you wanted charts to be done, it's $5 per chart. But the thing that you have to be careful about is that if you sign up for the classes online, then you'll be limited to the online classes. Like it's not like you can sign up for them online and then show up in Hampton, because they're two separate subscriptions. Okay. And then as far as, the private sessions, that will all be done by appointment.
So if I want to take advantage of the new moon and the transformation you mentioned about Pluto and how that has to do with transforming, so by starting this spiritual advance now, that actually would be cosmically a great time to start a program and working on myself and start this process forward.
Yeah, there isn't really a bad time to start. You know, I mean, and then the other thing is that if you don't start on the 27th, you know, and it's fine to start whenever you want. But the thing is to try and get the ball rolling, you know, and there's going to be a lot of what we call basic considerations that you want to have in place. And that's one of the reasons why we use the labyrinth, you know, our chakra system as a template, so that we do take basic considerations for our physical body, you know, our values, our resources, our finances. We take, you know, these basic considerations for how the lower mind works, nutrition, you know, that, you know, simple stuff like how to combine foods so that you assimilate nourishment from your foods. You know, what are the benefits of making vegan choices in your diet? Also, you know, recreation, you know, what do you do for fun is an important thing to have in place. Maintenance, how to maintain your life. And then, you know, the department of relationships and the importance of having this primary relationship in how it will enrich all our interpersonal relationships and especially our intimate interpersonal relationships. We talked about that in, you know, with that show on sex out of marriage is a sin. And then, of course, you know, renewal and transformation in and of itself is a consideration. And then, you know, the higher mind. You know, what are the applications of how to use the mind on all of these different levels? And then your Dharma. You know, this whole thing of a collective purpose and a unique talent. And then, of course, the final, you know, I want to say consideration is, you know, union of the individual with the divine. You know, your connection with your divinity.
Great. Thank you, Swami. We're going to take a moment to hear a word from our sponsor. Listeners, we'll be with you shortly.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate.
If you are looking for a Samadhi-based experience, IPD Kriya Yoga has the goods. A complete yoga program that includes the practices and the process. Kriya Yoga Series 1 live classes and videos. Get your arms around the spiritual science of Kriya Yoga.
You know, the intention of why we practice is to embody the spirit, you know, to feel connected to the life force.
Kriya Yoga Asana live classes and videos. A cosmically engineered system of exercises to initiate Apotheosis. A system of exercises engineered for dining and dancing at the Cosmic Ballroom. Kriya Yoga Series 2 live classes and videos. A practice in open form designed to facilitate positive growth of consciousness. Get your Labyrinth video.
I find the positive side of it is it pulls a lot of things together.
Kriya Yoga Mantra and Meditation. With repetition comes absorption. Pray on prana and become divine.
At the same time, we all have a unique talent and gift to give back to the universe.
Private sessions. The mysteries of the universe have always been handed down verbally from teacher to student. Call or click now and get started. 603-929-0303 or www.ipdtransform.com. Namaste.
Purnamariya Purnameva Vashishate.
Well, welcome back. For those of you just joining us, you are listening to The Voice of Yoga, and we are talking consciousness. Swami, before we took that little break, you were talking about the basic considerations. Can you just explain for our listeners what you mean? You used the phrase lower mind and then later higher mind. Can you just give us a more detailed description as to what you mean by that.
Yeah, the whole thing of duality that we talked about, and how things are happening on three different levels, understanding the Trinity, and our minds are quite complicated. That there's something within us that's of an animal nature, there's something that's within us that's of a human nature, and there's something that's within us that's of a divine nature. And so the lower aspects of the mind, would be associated with, the path of descending prana and ascending prana. That instinct, appetite, preservation, survival, that would be all associated with lower mind. Also intelligence. Our mental functions, perception, reason, memory, intuition. And these are the parts of the mind that are directly related to our senses. And they're somewhat limited in their functionality. The lower mind can really only do one thing at a time. Now, as we start to move into the realms of the higher mind, that's where you're aspecting parts of the mind that can do many things at once, like the part of the mind that is controlling your heart rate, your blood pressure, your body temperature simultaneously. And then even beyond that part of the mind, there is a part of the mind that is doing everything at once. Now this would be associated with what we call Shushumna in Kriya Yoga, the middle road, the balancing of self-conscious awareness, with unconscious awareness gives us leverage. It gives us this platform where we can actually start to expand the conscious mind. And that's one of the goals of the science of yoga is total consciousness. Because what isn't conscious is going to be unconscious or karmic. But from the vantage point of what we call samadhi in yoga, you are no longer the victim. You are behind the forms. You recognize that you are creating your reality. And it's all part of, this practice. First you must divide and conquer before you can unite and stand. And these are all the kind of the pieces that go together that culminate into these experiences that we talk about.
I want to talk more about the spiritual advance, too, that you had mentioned earlier. And I know you're saying, starting July 28th, we want people to join our Kriya Yoga Spiritual Advance. We want people to immerse themselves in the spiritual science of Kriya Yoga by attending your classes in asana, Theory 1, Theory 2. You mentioned mantra, meditation, pranayama. You also said the subscriptions are $85 a month, and all videos are half price. I think that's a wonderful price for people. But tell us personally, why do you want people to attend this program? What is it that, what is your goals and objectives? I want people to hear why you're immersed in yoga yourself, why you became a Swami.
Well, to answer your question, it's the light in the soul. When there's light in the soul, there's beauty in the person. When there's beauty in the person, there's harmony in the home. When there's harmony in the home, there's honor in the nation. And when there's honor in the nation, there's peace in the world. Now once an individual gets, this light in their soul, and they experience, this thing we call eternal happiness, the way that the whole thing starts to work is like attracts like, and in order for us to generate a movement, thought is an energy capable of producing effects, but it's all measurable based on the amount of strength we emit it with. Now, thoughts that are in phase exponentially increase the amplitude of those thoughts. So now we come back into, this 100-monkey theory. That the Chinese did studies with monkeys, and they were feeding monkeys sweet potatoes, and the sweet potatoes were dirty, and the monkeys, had to wash their food. And, when they were feeding 20 monkeys and 50 monkeys, then 75 monkeys, but when it reached 100 monkeys, they noticed that monkeys all over the planet started washing their food. So it's the whole thing of critical mass, to try and elevate the collective consciousness. It's one of the reasons why it's so important, that people understand the difference between celebrity pseudo-spiritual experiences and a true mystical state of being. Because there are millions of people practicing yoga today. There are millions of people following, Oprah Winfrey and Deepak Chopra, and the world is still in turmoil. And if all you need is 100 monkeys, to impact the collective, to change the world, I think that's the thing that inspires me more than anything. And then, of course, the other thing that happens is, with this connection, you recognize with an expanded sense of awareness, the same soul that animates me is animating you. And what I'm putting out is what I'm getting back, and I like myself. So it becomes, the concept of the Bodhisattva, the enlightened being who chooses to reincarnate, because true enlightenment doesn't happen until every one of us passes over this threshold. So one of the reasons why, we try and promote these types of programs, we try and create the movement is, to encourage people to get the light in their soul. And if you are practicing something and you're not experiencing this expanded sense of self, then chances are that, maybe what you're doing may be missing something. And that's, like I say, what we've done is we've taken all of the ambiguity out of it. We've taken all of, I want to say, the misconceptions and self-deceptions out of it. We've created it as more as a science.
Great. So I would like to encourage everyone out there, begin shaping your goals, for this retreat to Costa Rica. That's going to be next year, February 21st to the 28th, 2015. As we say, start small or go big. You can pick one or join them all. So sign up for the retreat by September 1st for $1,199. Great information, Swami. Thank you. Well, in closing, I would invite listeners out there to please visit our website. You can follow us on Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook. Keep your questions and comments and curiosities coming. Swami does enjoy hearing from you, and we'll respond back to you. Our program next week, we will be talking about happiness. What are the different types of happiness, and how do you even know if you are happy? So any final thoughts, Swami, about what we talked about today, spiritual advance or happiness?
Yeah, it's good to be happy. Healthy and happy are probably your two biggest assets, and the two of the things that we focus most on in our Kriya Yoga practice. But I think as far as, I think we've covered just about everything that we could, and just take advantage of this new beginning with this new moon coming up on June 27th. And I will wish everybody a namaste.
Thank you for listening to our program, The Voice of Yoga. I am Lisa Winton. With me, Swami Jayananda. Signing off. Have a wonderful Kriya Yoga kind of day. Namaste.